On the coldest winter night, a distraught billionaire encounters two shivering little girls at a bus stop. One question changes everything. One choice will cost him his fortune, his future, and his heart. This isn't a rescue story. This is a story about who truly saved whom. The snow had been falling for hours. Not the gentle kind that made the city look soft and clean, but heavy, relentless flakes that soaked through thin clothes and burned bare skin. At the edge of an abandoned bus stop on the south side of Chicago, Lily Harper, 5 years old, sat perfectly still on a frozen bench. She didn't move. She had learned that moving wasted warmth. In her arms was Mia, only 14 months old, wrapped in a jacket that used to belong to someone else. The zipper was broken. One sleeve was missing. Lily pressed her cheek against Mia's head, feeling for breath, counting it the way she'd learned to do after the fire. 1, 2, 3. Mia whimpered. Lily tightened her grip instantly. Shh, she whispered, her lips barely moving. It's okay. I'm here. Her fingers were numb. She couldn't feel them anymore, but she kept rubbing Mia's back anyway, afraid that if she stopped even for a second, something terrible would notice them. The bus stop light flickered above them. On, off, on. Cars passed. None slowed. Lily didn't cry. She hadn't cried since the orphanage burned down. Crying didn't help when the walls were gone and the adults were screaming and no one came back for you. She stared at the snow collecting on the ground and wondered, not for the first time, if falling asleep would make the cold stop hurting. But then Mia coughed softly. That sound pulled Lily back. No, she whispered fiercely. We stay awake. 5 years old, and already guarding a life. Part 2. The fire that took everything, 300 words. Lily still remembered the sound before the flames. Glass shattering, someone yelling her name. The orphanage had always smelled like soap and old blankets. That night it smelled like smoke and fear. Lily had woken up to heat crawling up the walls, to shadows running without faces. She had grabbed Mia from the crib without thinking, just arms, weight, instinct. No shoes, no coat. She remembered standing outside afterward, barefoot in the snow, watching the building burn like it was erasing them on purpose. Fire trucks came. Adults shouted. Someone wrapped a blanket around Lily's shoulders, but no one asked where they would go next. By morning, the orphanage was gone. So were the people who were supposed to care. Since then, Lily had learned new rules. Don't ask for too much. Don't trust quickly. Always hold on to Mia. Tonight, those rules were all she had. The bus stop wasn't shelter, but it blocked the wind from one side. Lily sat with her back straight, eyes half open, forcing herself to stay alert. Every time Mia stirred, she whispered stories, ones she made up because there were no books anymore. Stories about warm kitchens, about beds that didn't smell like strangers, about a place where fires didn't take everything. Tomorrow, Lily whispered, though she didn't know what tomorrow was supposed to bring. Tomorrow will be better. Snow landed on her eyelashes. She blinked slowly. The city didn't notice two little girls disappearing into winter, but Lily noticed everything. The clock across the street said 11:47 p.m. Lily didn't know how to read time properly, but she knew night had lasted too long. Her legs were stiff. Her arms ached from holding Mia so tightly. Every breath burned her throat. Mia's cries had grown weaker. That scared Lily more than the cold. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against Mia's, sharing warmth the only way she could. Snow clung to her hair, melting into icy water that ran down her neck. She shivered hard, but didn't let go. A shadow moved at the far end of the street. Lily noticed immediately. Her body tensed, every muscle ready to run, even though she knew she couldn't. She had learned that adults didn't always help. Some looked away. Some asked questions she didn't know how to answer. The footsteps grew closer. Lily lowered her head slightly, shielding Mia with her body. She didn't beg. She didn't wave. She waited. The shadow stopped in front of them. Warm light spilled over the bench, cutting through the snow. Lily lifted her eyes just enough to see shoes, clean, expensive, and the hem of a long, dark coat. A man's voice followed, low, careful. "Hey, sweetheart." Lily didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around Mia. The world held its breath. The man didn't reach for them. That was the first thing Lily noticed. Most adults did, hands out, too fast voices, too loud eyes, already deciding things. But this man stayed where he was, a few steps away, letting the snow fall between them like a boundary he didn't want to cross. His coat was dark, long. Snow clung to his shoulders like it belonged there. Lily could see his breath fog the air, steady and controlled, nothing like the panic pounding inside her chest. "Hey, sweetheart," he said again, softer this time. "It's freezing out here." Lily didn't respond. She shifted slightly, angling her body so Mia was completely hidden. The man noticed and stepped back. That made her look up. His face wasn't angry. It wasn't rushed. His eyes looked tired. Not the tired of someone who hadn't slept, but the kind that came from carrying something heavy for too long. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. The question landed like a stone. Lily swallowed. Her lips trembled, but she forced them to move. "We don't have any," she whispered. The man froze. The city noise seemed to pull away, leaving only the hiss of snow and the shallow sound of Mia's breathing. Lily waited for the next question. There was always another one. Instead, the man crouched down, slowly bringing himself to her level. "I'm Ethan," he said. "What's your name?" Lily hesitated. Names had a way of disappearing. "Lily." And her Ethan nodded toward the bundle in her arms. "Mia." Ethan's gaze softened when Mia stirred, her small face red from the cold. Lily tightened her grip instinctively, afraid he might reach for her. He didn't. "You've been very brave," Ethan said quietly. "How long have you been out here?" Lily stared at the snow-covered ground. "Since it got dark." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, something in his expression had changed, like a decision had already been made. Ethan noticed the way Lily held Mia, not like a sister, but like a shield. He noticed the too thin shoes, the way Lily's knees trembled even though she refused to sit down again, the faint smell of smoke that still clung to their clothes long after the fire itself was gone. "What happened to you?" he asked carefully. Lily shook her head at first. Talking took energy. Energy was precious. But Mia whimpered again, a weak, broken sound, and Lily knew she had to say something. If only once. "We lived at a place," she whispered. "With other kids." "A shelter?" Ethan asked. "An orphanage." The word sounded too big for her mouth. "It burned," Lily continued. "There was fire, loud fire, and smoke everywhere." Her voice wavered, but she forced herself to go on. "They told us to wait, so we did. But no one came back." Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. "When was this?" he asked. Lily shrugged. "A few sleeps ago. Or more." Snow gathered on her lashes again. Ethan reached out without thinking, then stopped himself. "Do you have anywhere to go tonight?" he asked. Lily didn't answer. She looked down at Mia, then back up at Ethan. Her eyes were too old for her face. No. The word was small. Final. Ethan stood up slowly, pulling off his gloves. He wrapped them around Lily's frozen hands before she could protest. "They're warm," he said quickly. "Just for now." Lily flinched but didn't pull away. Ethan looked at the empty street, at the bus stop, at the two girls who shouldn't have existed in the space between his worst night and his broken heart. "I was walking because I didn't want to go home," he said, more to himself than to her. "But you shouldn't be here." Lily's grip tightened. Ethan took a breath. "If you trust me," he said, choosing every word like it might shatter, "I can take you somewhere warm, with food." Lily stared at him for a long time. Trust was dangerous, but Mia was shivering harder. Lily had learned to read danger. Fast hands, loud voices, smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Ethan had none of those. Still, her heart pounded as she nodded just once. "Okay," she whispered. Ethan didn't touch Mia until Lily adjusted her hold, silently giving permission. Even then, he moved carefully like she was made of glass. They walked together through the snow. Lily's legs burned with every step. She focused on Ethan's shoes ahead of her, placing her feet where he stepped, believing irrationally that it might keep her safe. The restaurant was bright and loud and impossibly warm. Lily flinched when the door closed behind them, trapping the heat inside. Her hands began to sting painfully as feeling returned. Mia started to cry. "It's okay," Ethan said quickly, taking a seat. "She's just warming up." Food arrived. Soup, bread, milk. Lily watched Ethan closely as she ate, terrified that someone would tell her to stop. But no one did. Ethan didn't rush her. He didn't look at the clock. For the first time in days, Mia drank until she slept. Ethan watched the girls with an ache he didn't understand yet. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't even close to the life he had imagined. But as Lily leaned back in her chair, eyes drooping, she looked at him and asked something that broke him completely. "Are we going back to the cold?" Ethan swallowed hard. "No," he said. "Not tonight." Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, something fragile had begun. The car was silent except for the hum of the engine and the soft, uneven breathing of Mia asleep against Lily's chest. Lily had never been inside a car like this before. The seats were warm. Too warm. It made her nervous. She kept one hand clenched in the fabric of her coat, as if everything might vanish the moment she relaxed. Outside the window, the city slid past dark streets, giving way to wider roads, fewer lights, deeper quiet. Snow blurred everything into soft shapes that didn't feel real. "Are we far?" Lily asked softly. "A little," Ethan replied. "But you're safe. Safe." The word felt strange, heavy. The house appeared suddenly rising from behind iron gates like something from a picture Lily had once seen in a book at the orphanage. Tall, bright, too big to belong to one person. Lily froze when the car stopped. "This is where I live," Ethan said, opening the door slowly. "You don't have to go inside if you don't want to." Lily stared at the light pouring out from the windows. Warm yellow light. The kind that didn't flicker. She tightened her hold on Mia and shook her head. "No," she said quickly. "We'll go." The door closed behind them with a soft click. Warmth wrapped around Lily instantly, so strong it made her dizzy. The smell of clean air soap and something faintly sweet filled her nose. Her knees trembled. She took one step inside, then another. Everything felt too quiet, too untouched. Lily stood still, afraid that one wrong move might break the place or prove she didn't belong. Ethan noticed. "You can sit," he said gently. "Nothing bad will happen if you touch things here." Lily nodded, though she didn't fully believe him. She lowered herself onto the edge of a couch, keeping Mia close eyes scanning every corner. This house was warm, but warmth Lily had learned could disappear without warning. The bathroom light was too bright. Lily squinted, clutching Mia tighter as Ethan turned on the water. Steam rose almost immediately, fogging the mirror, filling the room with heat. "It's just water," Ethan said. "Warm water." Lily nodded but didn't move. She remembered the orphanage showers, cold rushed, sometimes skipped altogether. She remembered scrubbing fast, afraid someone would shout. Ethan knelt beside her. "I'll step outside," he said. "You can lock the door." That surprised her. After a moment, Lily nodded again. The water touched her skin, and she gasped, not in fear, but in shock. It didn't burn. It didn't sting. It didn't rush her. She lowered Mia carefully into the tub, supporting her tiny body with shaking hands. Mia whimpered at first, then relaxed her head, tipping back slightly as the warmth soaked in. Lily swallowed hard. She washed Mia slowly, carefully, like something precious. When it was her turn, Lily hesitated. The dirt on her arms seemed permanent, like it belonged there. But as she scrubbed, gray water swirled down the drain. Layer by layer, the cold, the smoke, the street washed away. She stared at her own hands, afterward, pink, clean, real. Wrapped in towels, the girls stepped back into the hallway. Ethan looked up and stopped. The bruises on Lily's knees. The scars too old for someone so young. The way she flinched when the towel slipped. He looked away quickly. "Your room's ready," he said hoarsely. Lily followed him, heart pounding. She had never had a room. The bed was enormous. Lily stood at the edge of it, unsure what to do. The sheets were white, clean, untouched. Can Mia sleep here?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said immediately. "And you too." Lily climbed onto the bed, cautiously placing Mia beside her. The mattress dipped softly beneath their weight, holding them instead of pushing back. She waited. Nothing happened. No shouting, no alarms, no orders to move. Ethan stood by the door. "I'll be right outside," he said. "If you need anything, just call my name." "What if we wake up?" Lily asked. "I'll still be here." That mattered more than she wanted to admit. When Ethan closed the door halfway, Lily stayed awake for a long time, watching Mia's chest rise and fall. The house creaked softly, settling around them. For the first time since the fire, Lily didn't feel the cold in her bones. Her eyes finally closed. Outside the room, Ethan sat on the floor with his back against the wall, coat still on, hands clasped tightly together. He didn't sleep. He listened. And in the quiet of that massive house, something fragile took root, not ownership, not rescue, but responsibility. Morning came quietly, the way it never did at the orphanage. No loud footsteps in the hallway, no screaming, no slammed doors. Only a soft glow pressing through the curtains, turning the snow outside into a pale, frozen ocean. Lily opened her eyes and held her breath, waiting for the cold to stab her cheeks, for the hard bench to bite into her back. But she was still in the bed. The huge bed. The warm sheets. The air that smelled like clean laundry instead of smoke. For a moment, she didn't move. She watched Mia sleeping beside her, hair still damp from the bath, cheeks faintly pink. Lily reached out and touched Mia's forehead, not because she wanted to wake her, because she needed proof that this wasn't a dream. Mia's skin was warm. Warm. Lily swallowed hard and sat up. Her clothes were folded neatly on a chair, not thrown, not torn away. Folded like someone expected her to return to them later. She padded to the door and cracked it open. The hallway was quiet, bright, too bright. Lily stepped out cautiously, bare feet sinking into thick carpet. She moved slowly, listening for danger the way she always did. But the only sound was gentle. From downstairs she heard it. A clink. A low voice on the phone. Lily froze instinctively, turning back toward the room. Her hand went to the doorknob, ready to lock herself in again. Then she smelled something. It drifted up the staircase like a promised toast, warm milk, something sweet. Lily's stomach twisted painfully. Hunger was a sharp thing when you hadn't eaten enough for days. She told herself she wouldn't take too much. She would only take what Mia needed. When she reached the kitchen, she stopped. Ethan stood at the counter. Sleeves rolled, hair still damp, as if he'd washed his face and failed to wash away the night. A mug of coffee sat untouched beside him. On the stove, a small pot steamed. On the table, there were 2 bowls already waiting, one with oatmeal, one with mashed banana and warm milk. He turned when he sensed her. "Good morning," he said softly, as if he didn't want to scare the air itself. "I didn't know what you liked, so I guessed." Lily didn't answer. She watched him like a cornered animal watches an open hand. Ethan nodded once, as if he understood. "You can sit," he said. "You don't have to talk." Lily sat at the far end of the table, keeping the chair between them like a shield. Ethan didn't approach. He didn't push the bowl closer. He simply sat across from her and waited. The silence stretched. Lily's eyes flicked to the window. Snow still falling. The world still cold. "Is Mia okay?" Ethan asked. Lily nodded quickly. "She's sleeping." Ethan exhaled a breath he'd been holding. "I called a doctor," he admitted. "Not the police. A doctor. I just want to make sure she's all right." The word police made Lily stiffen. Her spoon paused mid-air. Ethan saw it immediately. "No one is taking her," he said firmly. "Not today." Lily stared at him. Adults made promises all the time, but his voice sounded like he was making the promise to himself too. The hospital was warm, but Lily still felt cold. Maybe it was the smell, sharp and clean and unfamiliar, or the way people looked at them, eyes lingering too long. Lily held Mia tight as Ethan walked beside them, moving with the confidence of someone who belonged in every place he entered. They sat in the waiting room beneath harsh lights. Mia's small fingers clutched Lily's sleeve like a lifeline. Lily rocked her gently, whispering the same line over and over. "It's okay. It's okay. I'm here." Ethan watched, jaw tight. When the nurse called them in, Lily almost refused. She had learned that doors closing behind you could be dangerous. But Ethan didn't touch her. He didn't pull. He simply stood and waited until Lily followed on her own. The exam room was too white. A doctor with kind eyes checked Mia first. Her tiny ribs were visible beneath her skin. The doctor's face didn't change, but something in his gaze tightened. "Dehydration," the doctor murmured. "And she's underweight." Lily's throat closed. "She eats," Lily whispered quickly. I tried." The doctor glanced at her gentle. "I know you did." Ethan's hands clenched at his sides. Then the questions began. Quiet, professional, deadly. "Are you their father?" the doctor asked Ethan. "No," Ethan replied. Guardian Ethan hesitated only a fraction. "I'm taking care of them." The doctor nodded slowly and stepped out. A minute later, a woman in a gray cardigan entered with a badge clipped to her waist. Social worker. Lily recognized the type instantly. Not cruel worse. Official. "Hi," the woman said, voice sweet. "I'm Ms. Rivas. I just need to ask a few questions." Lily's body went rigid. Ms. Rivas looked at Ethan. "Sir, can you tell me your relationship to these children?" Ethan kept his voice even. "I found them last night in the snow. They were alone. I took them somewhere warm." Ms. Rivas's smile didn't fade, but her eyes sharpened. "Did you contact the authorities?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was complicated. Because the truth would sound suspicious in a room like this. "I contacted a doctor," he said. "Because the baby could have died." Ms. Rivas's gaze flicked to Lily. "And you?" she asked Lily gently. "Do you know this man?" Lily opened her mouth. No sound came out. Her mind flashed with the orphanage burning. Adults shouting, hands grabbing, being told to wait. She tightened her hold on Mia and whispered the only safe truth: "He gave us food." "Ms. Rivas nodded, but Lily saw the note she scribbled. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "They have nowhere to go," he said. "Their orphanage burned down." Ms. Rivas's face softened for a second. Then professionalism returned like armor. "I understand," she said, "but we have protocols. There are procedures." Procedures. That word made Lily's stomach drop. Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced down and his expression changed, subtle, sharp, like the first crack in glass. Someone had recognized his name. Someone had made a call. They were halfway back to the car when Ethan's phone rang again. He didn't answer the first time. The second time he did because the number was one he couldn't ignore. "Donnelly," a man's voice said immediately. Ethan, what the hell is going on? Lily walked faster when she heard Ethan's tone shift. Mia whined softly, sensing the tension in the air. Ethan opened the car door, motioning Lily inside with a look that said now. Lily climbed in, pulling Mia close. The door shut. The world outside became muted. Ethan stayed outside, snow gathering on his hair as he pressed the phone tighter. 2 kids, Ethan said, voice low. Found them in the snow. They had nowhere. Stop, Donnelly cut in. I'm not asking if you did the right thing. I'm asking if you understand what this looks like. Ethan's jaw clenched. I don't care how it looks. You need to, Donnelly snapped. Because CPS is involved now. Hospital staff filed a report. And Ethan, your name is already being mentioned. Ethan's breath fogged in the air. Lily watched from the window, her face pressed close to the glass. She couldn't hear the words clearly, but she could see Ethan's shoulders tighten like someone had hooked chains onto them. Donnelly continued, calmer now, more dangerous. Do you know what can happen? They can accuse you of kidnapping, unlawful custody, exploitation, and if someone wants to make this ugly, who Ethan demanded. A pause. Too long. Then Donnelly said it. Victoria Hale. The name hit like a slap. Ethan's eyes went distant for half a second, as if the betrayal replayed itself on loop. Then he looked back toward the car, toward Lily and Mia. Why would she? Because she's a lawyer, Donnelly said. And because you're a billionaire who just disappeared after a public breakup. Now 2 children appear in your home, you see it right. Ethan's hand trembled, but his voice didn't. I'm not giving them up. I didn't say you had to. Donnelly replied. I'm saying we do it legally, immediately. Emergency guardianship petition. We document everything. We prove they were in danger. We prove you acted to protect them. Ethan's throat tightened. And if the court says no, Donnelly's voice dropped. Then they take them. And you might not see them again. Ethan stared at the snow-covered ground like it might offer mercy. Then he lifted his head, eyes hardening. File it, Ethan said. All of it. Today. He ended the call and opened the driver's door, sliding into the seat with controlled movements. Like if he moved too fast, the fragile warmth behind him would shatter. Lily's voice came from the back, tiny and raw. Are they going to take Mia? Ethan looked at her in the mirror. For a moment, the billionaire disappeared. Only a man remained, one who had been empty last night, and now was terrified of losing something he hadn't even had time to name. No, he said, and meant it. Not if I can stop it. Outside, the snow kept falling, and somewhere in the city, Victoria Hale had already started her next move. Victoria Hale arrived the way she always did. Not quietly. The security gate barely had time to close behind her car before she was already stepping out, heels clicking sharply against the stone driveway. Her coat was flawless, hair perfect, makeup untouched by the winter wind. She looked like someone who belonged on magazine covers, not someone standing in front of a house that no longer felt like hers. Ethan saw her from the living room window. His body went still. Lily noticed it immediately. She was sitting on the floor nearby, lining up Mia's small socks with careful precision. The moment Ethan stopped moving, something inside her tightened. Adults only froze like that when danger had a name. The doorbell rang. Once. Firm. Confident. Like an order. I'll take Mia upstairs, Lily whispered, already lifting her sister. Ethan nodded without thinking. By the time Victoria stepped inside, the house had changed. The warmth felt fragile now. Temporary. Victoria's eyes swept the room, furniture, photos, details, until they landed on Ethan. So she said coolly, "You disappear after the engagement party, and I find out from a colleague that you've been flagged by CPS." Ethan didn't respond. Victoria smiled slightly. "You didn't think I wouldn't hear about it, did you?" "You came uninvited?" Ethan said. Victoria shrugged. "I came concerned." Her gaze shifted to the small shoes by the door, to the toys on the coffee table, to the child-proof gate at the stairs. Her lips pressed together. "You brought children into this," she said quietly. "Into your mess." "They were freezing," Ethan replied. "One of them almost died." Victoria tilted her head. "And now you want to play savior." Ethan stepped closer, voice low. "This isn't a game." Victoria crossed her arms. "It's a liability." The word cut deep. Upstairs, Lily stood perfectly still behind the half-closed door, Mia asleep in her arms. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood the tone. Victoria's voice was sharp, controlled, dangerous. "You are being investigated," Victoria continued. "And if you think I'm going to let my name be dragged into a scandal involving abandoned children, they're not abandoned," Ethan snapped. "They are undocumented," Victoria corrected, "which makes them a problem." Lily's chest hurt. She pressed her hand over Mia's back, breathing slowly, quietly, trying not to exist too loudly. Victoria walked deeper into the house like she was reclaiming territory. "I spoke to Donnelly," she said casually. "He's good, but he's not a miracle worker." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You went behind my back." Victoria smiled. "I protected myself." She turned to face him fully now. "You're filing for emergency guardianship. That's risky. Judges don't like impulsive billionaires with savior complexes." Ethan's voice dropped. "What do you want?" Victoria's silence stretched between them. Then she said it. "You give them up." The words landed softly but carried the weight of a sentence. Ethan stared at her. "No." Victoria sighed like a disappointed teacher. "Listen to me. CPS will place them temporarily. Foster care. It happens all the time." "They'll be separated," Ethan said. Victoria waved a hand. "Eventually reunited." "That's a lie." Victoria's eyes hardened. "You don't know that." Ethan took a step closer. "I know what fear looks like in a 5-year-old's eyes." Victoria laughed once, short, sharp, and suddenly "You're an expert." She moved closer now, voice lowering. "You want a future, Ethan, with me, with our plans, our life." He didn't answer. Victoria leaned in. "It's them," she said quietly, "or me." Upstairs, Lily froze. Her heart began to pound so loudly she was sure they could hear it downstairs. Them. Or me. She pressed her lips together, swallowing the sob that threatened to escape. Mia stirred slightly, and Lily held her tighter, tears blurring her vision. Downstairs, Ethan didn't speak. Victoria straightened. "Choose wisely. Because if you don't, I will." She turned toward the door. "Tomorrow morning," she added over her shoulder, "I'll be filing my own report. One that paints you as reckless. Dangerous." The door closed behind her with a final click. The house felt empty. Ethan sank onto the couch, hands shaking for the first time since the night he'd met the girls. Upstairs, Lily sat down on the floor back against the door and whispered to Mia through tears she refused to let fall. "It's okay," she said. "I'll fix it." She had no idea how, but she meant it. The knock came early the next morning. Too early. Ethan was already awake. He hadn't slept. Neither had Lily. 2 people stood at the door, one in a gray coat, the other holding a folder thick with paper. The same woman from the hospital, Miss Rivas. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "We have a temporary court order." Lily stood halfway down the stairs, Mia clutched to her chest. Temporary meant nothing to a child. Temporary meant now. Ethan took the papers with steady hands, scanning them quickly. His chest felt hollow. "Emergency removal," he read aloud. "Pending investigation." Victoria's name was there. Lily's knees buckled. "No," she whispered. "Please." Ms. Rivas knelt in front of her. "You'll be safe," she said softly. "Just not here. Not yet." Lily shook her head violently. "She needs me. We'll keep you together," Ms. Rivas promised. Ethan stepped forward. You said you'd give me time. I did, Ms. Rivas replied. But this came from the court. Lily looked up at Ethan, eyes wide broken. Did I do something wrong? The question shattered him. No, Ethan said hoarsely, kneeling in front of her. You did everything right. Ms. Rivas reached out slowly. Lily tightened her grip on Mia until her arms shook. I won't cry, Lily whispered fiercely. I promise. Ethan closed his eyes. As they were led toward the door, Lily turned back once. She memorized the house, the warmth, the place that had almost been theirs. Outside, snow began to fall again, and for the first time since the fire, Lily cried not loudly, not dramatically, but silently, like someone who had already learned what the world could take. The house felt wrong without them. Ethan noticed it in the silence first. No soft breathing from the guest room. No tiny socks left behind on the stairs. The warmth still existed, but it had lost its meaning. He stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the empty bowls from breakfast, until his phone rang. Ethan Donnelly said, voice sharp and awake. They moved fast. They took them, Ethan replied. His voice was steady. Too steady. I know, Donnelly said. Which means we move faster. Ethan drove through the city like a man chasing time itself. Snow blurred into streaks of white as he replayed Lily's question again and again. Did I do something wrong? The answer echoed inside him with every mile. At Donnelly's office, files already covered the conference table. Photos, medical reports, hospital notes, security footage from the bus stop, time-stamped and undeniable. You didn't kidnap anyone, Donnelly said, tapping the screen. You intervened in an emergency. Ethan leaned forward. Then why does it feel like I'm the criminal because money makes people suspicious? Donnelly replied calmly. And because Victoria knows how to use that suspicion. Ethan's jaw tightened. She wanted me to choose. And you did, Donnelly said. Now we prove it. They filed motions late into the afternoon, emergency guardianship injunctions, counterclaims. Ethan signed everything without hesitation. What if the judge doesn't care? Ethan asked quietly. Donnelly met his gaze. Then we make them care. That night, Ethan returned to the house but didn't go inside. He sat in the car engine, off snow settling on the windshield. For the first time since the engagement ended, he cried. Not for Victoria, not for himself. For two girls who had trusted him with everything they had left. The foster facility smelled like disinfectant and plastic toys. Lily noticed it immediately. She sat on a narrow bed, Mia asleep beside her, one arm protectively draped across her sister's chest. The room was clean, too clean, like a place designed to hold children without ever knowing them. A woman smiled at her earlier, gave her a juice box, told her she was very brave. Lily didn't like brave. Brave was what people called you when they didn't know what else to say. A caseworker entered with a clipboard. You're doing very well, she said kindly. Your friend Ethan is working very hard. Lily's eyes lifted. He didn't forget us. No. The woman replied softly. He didn't. That mattered. But nights were harder. When the lights dimmed, Lily felt the old fear crawl back, the kind that lived in shadows and unanswered questions. She pressed her forehead against Mia's, whispering the same words she always did. I'm here. Across the city, Ethan stood in a courtroom hallway, hands clenched, as Victoria walked past him without slowing. You're wasting time, she said quietly. Judges love procedure. Ethan didn't look at her. They also love the truth. Victoria smiled thinly. Truth is flexible. Inside the courtroom, the air was cold and formal. The judge listened as Donnelly laid out the facts, the bus stop, the temperature, the medical reports, the fire. Then Victoria stood. She spoke smoothly, about risk, about influence, about a man acting emotionally after a public breakup. Ethan sat still, jaw locked. The judge raised a hand. I want to hear from the children's advocate. Lily's name was spoken. Her heart raced. A hand rested gently on her shoulder. "You don't have to say anything," the advocate whispered. "Only if you want to." Lily looked down at Mia. Then she nodded. The courtroom felt enormous. Lily's feet barely touched the floor as she sat on the chair, hands folded tightly in her lap. Mia was with a caretaker nearby, watching with wide eyes. The judge leaned forward slightly. "What's your name, Lily?" she said softly. "And how old are you, 5?" The judge nodded. "Do you know why you're here?" Lily hesitated. Then she answered honestly, "Because it was cold." A murmur rippled through the room. The judge raised a hand. "Tell me about that night." Lily took a breath. She hadn't planned words. She only had memories. "We were at the bus stop," she said. "It was snowing. Mia was shaking. I tried to keep her warm. Her voice wavered, but she didn't stop. He asked if we were cold." Lily continued, glancing briefly at Ethan. He didn't ask where we came from, or why we were there. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "What did he do next?" the judge asked. "He gave us food," Lily said, "and a bath, and a bed." Victoria shifted in her seat. The judge leaned closer. "Did he ever scare you?" Lily shook her head firmly. "No." "Did he ever tell you to lie? No? Did he promise you something he didn't give?" Lily thought for a long moment. "He said we wouldn't go back to the cold," she said quietly. "And we didn't. Not when we were with him." Silence filled the room. The judge sat back, eyes thoughtful. "Thank you, Lily," she said gently. "You were very clear." Lily nodded once and was led back to her seat. Ethan stared at the floor, hands trembling, not with fear, but with something like hope. The judge spoke again. "Given the testimony and the evidence," she said, "I am granting temporary guardianship to Mr. Caldwell pending full review." Victoria's smile vanished. Ethan exhaled a breath he'd been holding for weeks. Temporary. But it was a beginning. Outside, snow continued to fall. This time it didn't feel like an ending. The word temporary followed Ethan everywhere. It echoed in the courthouse hallway as reporters whispered behind raised phones. It lingered in the car as he drove back through streets glazed with ice. It waited for him in the silence of the house, sitting on every surface, tucked into every shadow. Temporary guardianship. A victory that could still be taken away. Ethan stood by the window long after sunset, watching the snow fall again. It felt different now. Not cruel, watchful, as if the city itself were holding its breath, waiting to see what he would do next. His phone buzzed. "Victoria." He stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. "You got what you wanted," she said calmly, as if congratulating a colleague. "Enjoy it while it lasts." "This is over," Ethan replied. Victoria laughed softly. "You really think a judge's sympathy ends things like this? Leave them alone." "Then leave me alone," she snapped, the mask cracking for the first time. "You dragged my name into a public mess." "You dragged yourself," Ethan said, "when you filed that report." A pause. Then Victoria's voice changed, cooler, sharper. "I'm walking away," she said, but not quietly. Ethan's chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means donors will hesitate. Boards will ask questions. Investors don't like uncertainty, especially when it involves children and headlines." Ethan closed his eyes. "Do you know how easy it is?" Victoria continued, "to turn temporary guardian of orphaned girls into unstable billionaire acting out after heartbreak." Ethan didn't respond, because he knew she was right. She sighed. "You chose them. I hope they're worth it." The line went dead. Ethan lowered the phone slowly. For a moment he stood very still, feeling the weight of everything he was about to lose. The reputation he had built. The future he had planned. The clean, predictable life that no longer existed. Then he remembered Lily's voice in the courtroom. He asked if we were cold. That memory steadied him. He called Donnelly next. "She's backing off publicly," Donnelly said after listening. "But she'll apply pressure elsewhere. I don't care, Ethan replied. Do whatever it takes. Donnelly paused. You could walk away. Ethan looked toward the empty staircase, toward the rooms that still waited. I already chose, he said. The foster facility was quieter this time. Lily sat in the small visiting room, legs swinging nervously as she watched the door. Mia clutched a stuffed rabbit someone had given her earlier, chewing one ear thoughtfully. Do you think he's coming? Lily whispered. The caseworker smiled. I know he is. When Ethan stepped inside, Lily didn't hesitate. She ran. She collided with him, hard arms wrapping around his waist like she was afraid he might disappear again. Ethan dropped to one knee, instantly holding her tight, breathing in the faint scent of soap and baby powder. I knew it, Lily whispered fiercely. I knew you wouldn't forget us. Ethan swallowed past the lump in his throat. Never. Mia reached for him, next arms outstretched. He lifted her carefully, holding both girls close, grounding himself in their warmth. We're going home, he said. Lily froze. Home. Home for now, Ethan said honestly. And we'll make it permanent. She nodded, trusting him completely. That trust scared him more than anything else ever had. The drive back felt different. Lily talked the entire way about the toys at the foster center, about a girl who cried at night, about how Mia had learned a new sound. Ethan listened to every word like it mattered more than any board meeting ever had. When they reached the house, Lily hesitated at the door. Are we allowed? She asked quietly. Ethan knelt in front of her. This is your house, too. She studied his face carefully, then nodded and stepped inside. The warmth wrapped around them again. This time Lily smiled. But peace didn't last long. That night, after the girls were asleep, Mia curled against Lily's side like a small anchor. Ethan sat with Donnelly on the phone reviewing documents. There will be a final hearing, Donnelly warned. Victoria may not be there, but her influence will be. I'm ready, Ethan said. Are you? Donnelly asked. Because once this becomes permanent, your life will never be the same. Ethan looked through the open door at two small figures sleeping peacefully for the first time in their lives. I know, he said quietly. He hung up and sat on the floor outside their room, back against the wall, just like that first night. But this time he wasn't guarding strangers. He was protecting his family. Outside, the snow fell softly, no longer threatening, just falling. The courthouse felt colder than the street outside. Ethan noticed it the moment he stepped through the metal detectors, the way the air pressed flat against his lungs, the way voices sounded smaller here, stripped of warmth and intention. This building didn't care who you were. It cared only about what could be proven. He adjusted his tie and glanced down the hallway. Lily sat on a bench beside the children's advocate feet, dangling hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. Mia rested against her shoulder, half asleep, a quiet weight Lily had learned to carry without complaint. Ethan met Lily's eyes. She nodded once. That single nod carried more faith than any contract he had ever signed. They entered the courtroom together. The judge was already seated, papers stacked, face unreadable. This time there were no reporters, only attorneys, advocates, and the quiet hum of a decision that had been weeks in the making. Donnelly stood first. Your Honor, he began, this case is no longer about emergency intervention. It's about continuity of care, emotional attachment, and the clear evidence that removing these children again would cause irreparable harm. He spoke calmly, methodically. Photos appeared on a screen, medical charts, showing weight-gained sleep patterns, stabilized notes from therapists documenting reduced anxiety. This is not a man seeking credit, Donnelly continued. This is a man who changed his life to protect two children who had none. The judge nodded slightly. Then the opposing counsel rose. Victoria Hale was not present, but her influence was. Your Honor, the attorney said smoothly, we must be careful not to confuse good intentions with long-term suitability. Mr. Caldwell's resources are significant, But so is the risk of instability, public scrutiny, future litigation. Children need predictability. Ethan felt Lily shift beside him. Predictability. The word felt hollow coming from someone who had never held a shivering child in the snow. The judge turned her attention to the advocate. What is the children's recommendation? The advocate stood. Both children show strong attachment to Mr. Caldwell. The older child, Lily, exhibits clear signs of distress at the thought of removal. Separation would likely re-traumatize both girls. The judge leaned back, considering. Then her eyes settled on Ethan. Mr. Caldwell, she said, you've been quiet. Ethan stood. He didn't look at the lawyers. He looked at the judge. I won't pretend I planned this, he said. I didn't. I didn't wake up one day wanting to be anyone's guardian. He paused, steadying himself. But I did wake up one night and see two children who would not survive if someone didn't stop. He glanced briefly at Lily. I can provide food, safety, stability. But more than that, I can be present. I can be consistent. I can choose them every day. The judge studied him, and if the scrutiny becomes too much, if your life becomes complicated. Ethan didn't hesitate. Then my life changes, he said simply. Not theirs. Silence filled the room. The judge lowered her gaze to the file in front of her. Pages turned, time stretched thin and sharp. Lily's heart pounded. She held Mia closer, whispering without sound. Please? The judge lifted her head. Temporary guardianship has allowed this court to observe outcomes, she said slowly. Those outcomes are clear. Ethan's breath caught. Mr. Caldwell, the judge continued, this court finds that returning Lily and Mia to foster care would not be in their best interest. A quiet gasp escaped Lily's lips. I am granting permanent guardianship, the judge said, voice firm. Effective immediately. For a moment, Ethan didn't move. The word permanent didn't land all at once. It unfolded slowly, like warmth returning to numb fingers. Permanent. Lily's grip broke. She ran to him, arms tight around his waist, crying openly now, no longer silent, no longer afraid. Ethan knelt, holding both girls, his face pressed into Lily's hair as the reality settled into his bones. The gavel struck once. It was over. Outside, snow fell in soft sheets, blurring the edges of the city. The steps of the courthouse gleamed white, clean, untouched. Ethan wrapped his coat around Lily's shoulders. She didn't pull away. Mia giggled as snowflakes landed on her nose. Is it really over? Lily asked, voice small but hopeful. Ethan crouched to her level. Yes, he said. It's over. She nodded, absorbing the word the way children do, slowly, completely. As they walked away, Ethan felt his phone buzz one last time. A message from Victoria. Take care of them. No signature. No threat. Ethan didn't reply. He didn't need to. Because the life ahead of him had finally chosen its shape, and it was walking beside him, one small hand in his another, wrapped around his neck, warm, alive, and finally safe. Winter returned to Chicago the way it always did, quietly, unapologetically. Snow fell in slow, deliberate sheets, turning the city into something softer than it deserved to be. From the wide windows of the house on the hill, the world looked paused, as if even time had learned to move more gently here. Lily stood on a small stool at the kitchen counter, tongue pressed between her teeth in concentration as she carefully poured cereal into a bowl. She had learned the exact amount, enough to be full, not enough to waste. Old habits lingered like faint scars. Behind her, Mia toddled across the floor, clutching a plush rabbit whose ears were already missing threads. She laughed when it bumped into the table leg, a bright, fearless sound that still startled Lily sometimes. Fearless. That was new. Careful, Ethan said softly, watching from the doorway with a mug of coffee growing cold in his hands. Lily glanced over her shoulder. I am. She always was. Ethan smiled, not the polite kind he used in boardrooms, but the kind that lived easily on his face now. He crossed the room and steadied the bowl just in case. Lily noticed but didn't comment. She liked that he helped without taking over. Outside, snow gathered on the porch railing. Inside, warmth settled into every corner like it had finally found permission to stay. The first year passed quietly. No cameras, no headlines, no speeches about generosity or redemption. Ethan stepped down from 2 boards. He declined interviews. He learned which meetings could wait and which bedtime stories could not. He learned the precise weight of Mia as she fell asleep against his shoulder. He learned that Lily hated loud applause but loved soft praise whispered when she thought no one was listening. Lily started school. On the first day, she stood frozen at the classroom door, backpack straps clenched in white-knuckled fists. The noise, the children, the sudden closeness, it all pressed in too fast. Ethan knelt in front of her. "I'll be right outside," he said, just as he had on that first night. "If you need me, I'm here." Lily searched his face carefully. Then she nodded and walked in. When she came home that afternoon, she didn't say much, just took off her shoes, sat at the table, and drew quietly with colored pencils. Later, she slid the paper across to Ethan. It was a picture of 3 figures beneath falling snow. One was small, one was smaller. One stood between them, arms wide. Ethan swallowed hard and taped it to the refrigerator without a word. Some nights were still hard. Lily woke from dreams where fire crept along the walls, or voices told her to wait and never came back. On those nights, Ethan would sit at the edge of her bed, saying nothing, simply staying until her breathing slowed. He never told her it was over. He let her decide when she believed it. Mia grew faster than anyone expected, laughing, running, fearless in a way only children who had been spared memory could be. Lily watched her carefully, like a guardian angel learning to rest her wings. One evening, months later, snow began to fall again, thick, heavy flakes that reminded Lily of the night at the bus stop. She froze by the window. Ethan noticed immediately. "It's just snow," he said gently. Lily nodded but didn't step away. After a long moment, she whispered, "Can we go outside?" Ethan paused. "Now, yes." They bundled up slowly. Coats, gloves, hats pulled too low. The porch light glowed warm against the dark. Lily stepped into the snow and held out her hand. A flake landed on her palm, melted instantly. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding for a year. "It doesn't hurt," she said softly. Ethan crouched beside her. "It doesn't have to anymore." She looked up at him, eyes clear and steady. "Thank you," she said, "not for the house, not for the food, not even for the bed. For staying." Later that night, after Lily and Mia were asleep, Ethan sat alone in the living room. Lights dimmed, snow reflecting softly through the windows. He thought about the man he had been before, the one who had walked through the city with nothing to lose and nothing to give. He hadn't been saved by wealth. He had been saved by a question. "Are you cold?" His phone buzzed quietly on the table, a final message from an unknown number. "They're lucky," it read. No name, no reply needed. Ethan turned the phone face down and stood walking toward the stairs. Outside the girl's room, he paused, as he always did, listening to the soft rhythm of sleep. He rested his hand briefly against the doorframe, grounding himself in the simple truth of the moment. Inside, Lily slept curled protectively around Mia, one arm thrown loosely over her sister's back. No fear on her face, no tension in her hands, just rest. Ethan smiled and whispered to the quiet house, to the snow, to the night that had changed everything. "We're home." And for the first time, winter agreed. Did this story move you? Share your thoughts in the comments and rate this story from 1 to 10. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss other heartwarming stories. Click on the last screen to see the next emotional chapter waiting for you. See you in the next story.